Sorry about that. All right, I'd like to call the October 7th, 2025 work study session to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, please conduct our roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski,
Present.
Vice Mayor Adam Quasman, Council Members Jan Duboskus,
Here.
Barry Graham, here. Kathy Littlefield,
Here.
Marianne McCallan,
Present.
and Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Greg Caton,
Here.
Interim City Attorney Louis Centella,
Present.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews,
Here.
Acting City Auditor Lake Clough,
Here.
and the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, this afternoon we begin with a work study session on the tourism event funding program. Work study sessions provide a less formal setting for the mayor and council to discuss specific topics with each other and city staff and provide staff an opportunity to receive direction from the council. To provide an opportunity for public input, yet continue to maximize the amount of time available for the council to have focused discussions. Spoken public comment is limited to a maximum of 5 speakers, and it will be accepted this afternoon on the work study session. And do we have any speakers, Ben? Oh, there we are, right here. Okay, we have for the speakers, which I'll take now, Bob Pedgman, French Thompson, David Smith, and Steve Sutton. Bob, please approach the podium. Thank you. Calling Bob Pedgman, I saw him. Let's go ahead and move on to French Thompson, but we can circle back with Bob. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, City Council, I've got a little presentation. I've got a little slideshow here. The City of Scottsdale had hired a company to do a Old Town Scottsdale business engagement study. So I don't know if you guys have read all of it, but I want to run through a few of the highlights of it. Next slide, please. So the top survey results were from 150 downtown stakeholders. They'd like to have the city market Old Town with brand characteristics of upscale, sophisticated, Western, and historic. The age group most merchants would like to have this attract would be 41 to 56 years old. And the customer groups that merchants want to attract are Scottsdale residents and luxury tourists. Next slide, please. So on page 6 of the report, it says that Arts District stakeholders in particular voiced frustration that their contributions have been overshadowed by the emphasis on bars, restaurants, and bachelorette parties in the marketing materials. Many also pointed to the diminished participation in events like the Art Walk and a lack of promotional visibility for galleries and studios. So these are 150 real businesses. This isn't just Bob Pedgman and myself and a few other people making these statements. These are people that are tax-paying businesses in your downtown. And in some cases, the city-sponsored events were seen as inadvertently harming local businesses, such as street closures for events disrupting gallery access and parking availability. Page 10, the next page, please. Page 7. They have a desire for increased transparency and collaboration with the city and these merchants. A large theme across the interviews and focus groups was a call for improved transparency and collaboration. Business owners expressed a frustration about not being informed or included in the city marketing decisions. Many felt that they had valuable insights and ideas to contribute, but were unsure who to contact or whether their voices would be heard. The absence of a designated liaison or central coordinating figure within the city staff was cited as a significant barrier. All of these businesses that are in the downtown area, they do their own marketing for their businesses. They know what works, they know what doesn't work, and they've been doing it for decades. So they should be talked to. Yes. So perceptions of marketing and effectiveness were, across all respondents, there were a shared uncertainty about the effectiveness of current marketing materials, efforts. When participants were asked to rate their awareness of city-led promotions, responses skewed to either neutral or lower ratings. Further, only a small percentage of participants indicated that current marketing efforts were effective. So, next slide. I request that City Council to direct staff, just this last page, if you give me just this last page, work with and communicate with the Old Town businesses that are being marketed, have quarterly presentations to the City Council on how the funding for the department is being spent, market to the desired demographic needed to support the luxury brand of Old Town Scottsdale, and designate a staff liaison position to stay on an ongoing communication with the merchants that they are marketing. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Bob Pedgman has returned, so step right on up.
Mayor Borowski, council members, name is Bob Pedgman, address is on record. And I thought that the presentation would go first, but you will find out that the overall bed tax money is about $35 million. 5% of that is slated for Old Town destination marketing. That amount is about $1.5 million. So you would figure with that amount of money, the stakeholders and general members of the public would know what the plan is and how the money is being spent. Unfortunately, they don't. What's worse is that you don't know how that money is being spent either. You don't know what the marketing plan is. You don't know how the money is being spent. And I had to do a records request last January to get hundreds of invoices to try to piece it together. And I still don't know how the money will be spent in the future, what the plan is. Now, I have to say that this must be the result of the previous city manager and its staff that created this kind of behind closed doors planning, and the previous councils went along with it. But it's a different story right now. I'm happy to report that our new city manager has made drastic moves. Number one, to put the marketing contract out to bid. We have 10 or 11 bids that they're going to be selecting from, and I'm hoping that the rest of this process will be made transparently and presented to the council and all that. Now, I have to say, though, that if things are being done behind closed doors and non-transparently, maybe, and just maybe we'd be okay with it if the results were good. But the way I see it, and what got me started on this whole thing, is the results don't look good. Let me put this on the projector, please. Can you see this? Okay. This chart was presented at the TDC meeting last year. Nobody raised an eyebrow, by the way. It shows that since 2017, the daytime visitation in Old Town has plummeted. The midnight hour is booming, and in fact, they kind of like showed off the fact that the midnight hour is booming. By the way, I love bars and clubs. I don't care that, I love that they're booming. But when it comes at the expense of the daytime plummeting, this is not good for our city's brand, when you have a desolate Old Town during the day. And if you look at the Keene study, which French referenced, 150 stakeholders, they basically said mostly the same thing. The marketing is not targeted. They don't know what's going on. And one recommendation that I make is that not only should everything be made transparent, approved by the council with presentations and all that, the city should divide up some of this money between the different categories. For example, shopping and dining, arts and culture, bars and clubs. Each should be designated a certain percentage of this, because not all these entities can be marketed with the same brush. They appeal to different demographics and all that, and I think that will also add to the accountability and measuring the effectiveness of the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David Smith.
Mayor,
Councilman Graham.
Mr. Pedgman, I just want to, can you put that screen back up on, that slide back up on the screen? Am I not allowed to ask questions?
We're not,
Madam, Mr. Parliamentarian, are we?
Excuse me, Councilman Graham, I will address my point of order to you, which is we're not supposed to have engagement with the speakers at public comment. Now, if you want to challenge that, that was the direction of our city attorney, but go ahead and ask.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Parliamentarian, for work studies, public speeches, can we ask questions or make comments to the speakers? in our rules?
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, what I addressed in my previous memo was non-agendized public comment. This is agendized public comment. So I think Councilman Graham can actually ask a question if he wishes.
Go right ahead, Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. It's really not a question. I just wanted to thank Mr. Pejman for bringing the slide to our attention, because without Mr. Pejman, this slide wouldn't have been brought to the public's attention. And, you know, I look at this slide right here. I mean, I agree with Mr. Pejman that every sector cannot win, every cannot grow. And so inevitably you're gonna, when you move a city's marketing and city's brand forward, one area is not gonna grow the same as all the others. When I see daytime traffic dropping like a rock and midnight traffic, booming, this does not tell me Scottsdale is for families. This does not scream arts and culture in Scottsdale. So I want to thank Mr. Pejman for bringing this to the public's attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob Pejman. Appreciate it. David Smith, followed by Steve Sutton, will be the last speaker. David, you're up. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. I asked to speak to this agenda item just to address one aspect of the city's collected bed tax, and that's the 5% portion that has been recently reserved for local destination marketing. If you followed the history of how this reservation developed, you know it started as a designated allocation in fiscal year 22-23, and it was carved out from the bed tax dollars that were traditionally directed to Experience Scottsdale for the city's national and international destination marketing. At any rate, in that first year, the 5% designated for local destination marketing amounted to $1.8 million, and none of it was spent. Perhaps because of confusion by staff about the designated purpose of the funds, I don't know, but none of it, zero. In year two, the 5% again was allocated for local destination marketing, and that year was $1.7 million. And that year, a large share of the allocation went to Glendale, covering the city's share of the Final Four tournament that was held in Glendale. Other money was also spent for what I think are dubious purposes, such as paying for economic development initiatives, like subscribing to a skybox on the 16th hole of the Waste Management Open. So it's hard to imagine that some of these expenditures really qualified as local destination marketing expenditures. In the third year, the 5% for local destination marketing was again $1.7 million. And that year, a large share of the money was spent on a marketing study, plus money to hire a downtown worker with business stakeholders. So I guess it was when in doubt, staff it up and study. But at any rate, that all happened with a different council and a different administration. And here we are now looking at the $5 million, at the budget for the local destination marketing this year. It's another $1.7 million. And when you get to slide 14 and 15 in your packet, I would urge you to ask tough questions about whether we can have a credible program for local destination marketing as directed by the Scottsdale voters. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to request quarterly reports from the group on the progress of this program, just as we expect quarterly reports from Experience Scottsdale on how they're spending the larger dollars for national and international spending. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David Smith. Steve Sutton.
Good afternoon, Honorable Lisa Borowski, Mayor of Scottsdale, and other council members. I'll admit I'm a little out of my depth on this subject, but I did look at the information that was available online, and I understand that we're talking about money spent to attract attention to our tourist destinations. One area, which was pointed out on a slide that French Thompson had, was the historic nature of Scottsdale. And that brings me to the topic of making sure that people are aware of one of the most historic things we have in Old Town. And that would be a structure that represents the history of Scottsdale over the last 90 years in social evolution. A structure that was built by immigrants that were recruited to pick cotton, but yet weren't allowed to even live within the town limits of Scottsdale at the time. I'm talking about the old Adobe Mission and how little most people know about it, and how it's one of the few things we have that really show the historic nature of Scottsdale and how it's changed. How people who came here and weren't even allowed to live in the town limits eventually became very well respected and earned the appreciation of the Anglo community to the point where a wealthy man bought them land and donated it to the Catholic Church in order for them to build the mission. Another one employed them in an adobe brick factory where they learned to build bricks, which they made the Adobe Mission. And from there, this structure became a center of culture here in Scottsdale, not just Catholic culture as the Our Lady of Perpetual Help, but as a place where they had pageants and other social activities with people of all faiths and ethnicities were involved. And this continued right up to the point of incorporation and for a little while after that, but it slowly faded away at the end of the 20th century, and it wasn't until the beginning of the 21st century that people began to realize the historic nature of this old church. And it was revitalized. They kicked out the Scottsdale Symphony that was leasing it, brought back the altar, brought back a lot of the artwork, and made it much as it was when it was first created. And it's a place that I see people visiting all the time. In fact, in May, I was standing in front of it, taking a measurement, and a couple of women walked up that obviously appeared to be not American citizens, and they weren't. They were from Sweden, and they were walking around in 100-degree weather early on Saturday, weekday morning, asking about it. And I casually mentioned to them about the plan to build a parking garage in front of it. And they were stunned. This is something important. We don't have very many places like this anymore, things that we can point to as historic areas that we can tell tourists about how we became the Scottsdale we are today. And I think some emphasis should be given in promoting that with our tax dollars as a destination, as something for people to visit when they come here. Thank you very much for your time, Mayor Borowski.
Thank you, Steve. And we have an addition, Dan Isaac.
Mayor and Council, Dan Isaac, address on record. Sorry for the last-minute submission. I wanted to follow up on a couple things that were said. For one, I agree with several of the comments that were made. We do need transparency in how we spend our money, and we do need to listen to businesses and what some of their concerns are. So you'll find me, interestingly, agreeing with Bob and French. But where I would depart is to believe that this council that's responsible for a multi-billion-dollar budget should be approving every line item in the expenditure of tax dollars. We have a department of experts that we need to rely on. We also have an outside firm, Experience Scottsdale, that has proven extraordinary results with regard to how we spend our marketing budget. French's slide talked about perception. Well, perception is one thing, reality is another. We have had record tourism figures and record revenues. So apparently, perception is not correct. We are effective at marketing. With regard to Bob's slide about increased visits in the evening and nighttime as opposed to during the day, he said it was at the expense. No, there is not a causal relationship between one type of establishment being more popular than another. So whereas we should make sure we are supporting all of our businesses, That doesn't mean that we have neglected them, because some businesses are less appealing than other businesses. And finally, with respect to Mr. Smith, if one does not believe that major events like the NCAA tournament or the Waste Management Open doesn't provide revenue for our downtown, they are mistaken. People come to Scottsdale. When we had the Super Bowl, it wasn't in Scottsdale, but we had thousands of people staying and spending money in Scottsdale. So I'm all for transparency, all for listening to all types of businesses, but let's stick to facts, not perceptions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan Isaac. That closes public comment. Thank you to all the speakers. Appreciate it. Next, we have Rachel Smentana, who's at the podium, to present, discuss, and receive possible direction regarding the Tourism Event Funding Program and the allocation of Tourism Development Fund dollars, including the 5% destination marketing allocation, which is the non-experienced Scottsdale portion, and the 50% tourism development and support allocation, which is part of the city's receipts on the bed tax, as well as the application recommendation and approval processes. All right, go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Borowski and Council. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to have a work study session. What I'm looking forward to most is hearing your input. As several of our speakers alluded to, we are looking towards the future and ready to do things well and more transparent, and your input is going to be very valuable. Greg also has some ideas going forward with the Tourism Development Fund, as well as my boss, Judy Doyle, who obviously brings her finance and budget acumen to the process. And I'd also like to introduce the chair of our Tourism Development Commission, Anna Manier, who is here. What we'll be discussing today is the bulk of the commission's work, and so we thank her very much for her dedication, as well as my colleague Steve Gigglemaw is here, in case I need to throw a lifeline over there. But, so I promised Greg I would be under 13 minutes with this presentation and then take your direction. But basically what I'm going to do is walk through the allocation of the Tourism Development Fund, both the 50% side, and that is the city's operating and capital projects and tourism support, and the 5% for the city's destination marketing, do a deeper dive into the city's destination marketing, and the 9% event funding bucket. So as you know, but to remind or educate anyone in the audience, in 2010, the voters approved Prop 200. With that, it increased the bed tax, which is the fund we're going to be talking about today, but also delineated that 50% of the funds would be set aside specifically for destination marketing, and the other 50% could be used for tourism-related support. Those funds are further governed by ordinance and by Financial Policy 10. Here is a snippet of Financial Policy 10. The actual policy is a lot longer. It's available on our website. You can read the whole thing, but what we're going to talk about here are these different percentage allocations that you can see here. So this is what it looks like for 25, 26. The forecasted revenues and all sources. So I should have been more precise with this. You'll see that green pie wedge there. That is 25% of the destination marketing funds, plus the proceeds from the Princess lease, plus some extra that are interest payments. So I could have been more specific there, but we are going to focus on all of these pie wedges, but the destination marketing piece, which you heard about at length in June when you approved Experience Scottsdale's annual business plan. So first and possibly easiest, there in the financial policy, there is a 12% transfer to the general fund. Now this transfer to the general fund is not earmarked specific to anything. City leadership over time has just assumed that when you have 11 to 13 million visitors coming to Scottsdale every year you're going to have increases in public safety costs, infrastructure costs, maintenance costs, and things like that. So this year it is forecasted to be $4 million. I have heard some notable voices in the community thinking that we should earmark that a little more. I know we've done a study in the past on the cost of public safety just in Old Town Scottsdale, and it was high. So it's generally accepted that the $4 million is supporting tourism through this transfer to the general fund. This one is also probably pretty easy to explain, 4% for administration and research. And you can see 25, 26, those are some of our major expenses there. New this year, we'll be revisiting Experience Scottsdale's ad effectiveness, so we will be able to understand more about that, which will be good information. We haven't done that since 2023. And we're also looking closer at the economic impact of spring training. The 25% operating expenses, again, I think this, I probably should have done a better job of labeling this. It should have said capital projects and tourism-related operating expenses. So you can see those are our major expenditures there. Debt service for the TPC, Westworld, Museum of the West, the stadium, some capital improvement projects that are tourism-related. Museum of the West, that funding is especially high this year because you'll recall you approved an extra $600,000 this year and another $600,000 for next year to upgrade the existing museum to match the beautiful privately funded expansion they just did. And some other notable items there. I also thought it was important to point out there is a tiny bit of bleed. We're going to go into the 9% for events and event development next. We do right now have some events-related items in the 25% operating expenses. And Judy and I have had extensive conversations about that. She is also on board, wants to clean this up and make this so that the events piece stays in the 9% as it should. So we just wanted to be very transparent about that. And then we'll get into the 9%. So 9% for events and event development equals about just under $3 million this year. These are some of the events. We have a mix of contractual obligations, internally produced events from my department, and external event funding programs. So you heard from Steve in July that we actually have 4 event funding programs. Here are 3 of them, and one is in the next tranche, the 5% destination marketing, and I'll get to that momentarily. But I think the original question was wanting some more information on why not all of these event funding contracts go to the full council. And as you can see, the 2 here that don't go to council, the event venue fee, those are for attracting sports leagues from out of town to have events at city venues, and then also the community event funding. And you can see the average funding there. So it's typically pretty small. And then we also have the Event Development Fund. All of those go to council. So it was actually back in 2014, it was decided as an efficiency rather than agendizing all of these through the clerk's office, legal writing a resolution, reports going to the city manager and all that, that it would be efficient and time effective for the event producers as well if these smaller funds that are actually below the procurement level to have to go to council could just administratively go from the recommendation from the Tourism Development Commission straight to the mayor. And I want to remind you, I know Steve said this in July, but the payments are made post-event contract fulfillment once that is all reviewed. And we have and do review that carefully, and we have and do reduce the amount of funding beyond what was originally awarded if they don't fulfill all their contract obligations. And this is just, I wanted to show, so the blue bar is the actual total budget for the 9% event development. The yellow are all funding contracts across all of them, and then you'll see that white line at the bottom. That is the amount in dollars that actually goes straight to the mayor and is not doesn't come to the full council. Again, it was thought to be an efficiency a long time ago. If that's something you want to change, we can certainly look at that. So Judy laughs at me that I included this. I'm not going to go through all this. I know it's an annoying slide, but I just wanted to show you graphically. There's a lot of staff review and checks and balances that go into an event application before it goes to council, or if it's one of those smaller ones, is kind of more administratively processed. So unless you want me to go through this, I will just go through it. It was just a visual example of the work that goes in behind the scenes before even the Tourism Development Commission sees an event funding request. And finally, on the events piece, we do have events that don't fit neatly into the application guidelines that you approve each year. Those always go to council, no matter the amount. These are all of them for 24-25. For one reason or another, they just don't fit in those guidelines, but obviously these are things that the community supports, the Tourism Development Commission supports, and the council has historically supported. So we bring all of those to council for consideration and approval. And I am about to move into the 5%. I've got a couple more slides. I can stop here if you want to talk events, or I can keep going, Mayor.
I see a question, Councilwoman McAllen.
Thank you, Mayor. Rachel, I just wanted to ask a quick question. You said anything that was below 30,000 did not go to City Council, goes to the TDC?
We do have some that are below 30,000. For example, you'll see on this slide the Arizona Indigenous Culinary Experience, which is a wonderful event, and it's also replicated by Experience Scottsdale in New York City to drive interest to Scottsdale. That's only $21,000. It doesn't fit specifically in an event, one of those event categories, so it still comes to council. So it's really just, let's see. It is really just these two, the community event and the event venue, and that is if they are strictly following the rules that the TDC recommended and the council adopted each year. So if they are out of those, out of those rules in any way, we bring them to council anyway, no matter the dollar amount.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Matana. Quick question. So we're just talking about the non-destination marketing, transfer to general fund, operating expenses, capital projects, administration and research, events. The only section that has that $30,000 threshold, is that the events and event development, or is that events and event development?
The $30,000. So we bring forward a budget, and this is maybe something that you want to see different in the future. I apologize, Mayor and Councilman Graham. We bring our budget with a lot of detail to the Tourism Development Commission. They make their changes and suggestions through the budget development process. And then, so there are elements in there that are rolled into the larger city budget. And so I'm thinking what you're getting at is when you're not seeing more specifically some of these expenditures outside of the events funding, it's through the...
I'm not talking about the budget.
Okay.
Talking about the actual expenditures when the events come up. So if you maybe go back to one of your slides. There's a lot of good slides here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Slide 11. Well, it's not, I don't know if it's slide 11, but it says 11. Let's go to the next page, I'm sorry. So at the bottom, yeah, there you go. Under $30,000, it does not go to city council, and that is for the special events, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then one other question, I read this down, the bubble, the second to bottom bubble, agendized for council, over 30,000, event development fund. Is that an either or is that an and, how you have bullets there?
It is an and. Every
Okay.
Event development fund application comes to council. Everything over 30,000
Okay.
goes to council, and everything that doesn't fit into the event funding guidelines as well goes.
Okay, and then my last question about this section of your presentation is, can you give us an example, talking about the same 9%, the payments are made to our payees, our vendors, after the event, is that correct?
Yes, sir. In most cases, I think the art walk gets half at
Okay.
the beginning, and there are a few, and they're in the contract that you will see.
Can you provide an example of when we didn't cut the full check because of performance from the payee or the vendor?
Yes, just this, Mayor, members of council, just in 24-25, we had the Persian Festival who didn't meet all their contractual obligations, so their original funding award from the TDC and approved by council was, I think, $49,000. Because they didn't meet all their contractual obligations, that was reduced to $39,000.
Can you say a little more about which provision was unmet?
Their days weren't consecutive, and I believe their attendance was low. Is that correct, Steve? You should have sat closer.
Can you speak at that lectern?
I can, thank you. As I recall with the Persian, as Rachel mentioned, they actually had a 3-day event. They weren't consecutive, but that wasn't a particular issue. But they didn't have one of the events. So we went back and looked at based on the criteria and reduced it based on a 2-day event rather than a 3.
So did you reduce it by 1/3?
I have to look back at the funding levels in terms of what was required for 3.
Yeah.
But we reduced it from 3 to 2. They have different amounts.
Okay.
It's not a percentage. It's a actual amount.
Okay, well, very good.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve. Ms. Matana, thank you. Those are answered my questions for this. And I'm glad that you guys it feels good to know that you're checking these contract provisions, because instead of, some cities might just cut a check and look the other way and move on to the next, but you guys are double checking. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Rachel, I believe the reason why we give the Art Walk their money in 2 doses is because the Art Walk is throughout a period of time extended. From what I remember reading, it's over 6 to 8 months, and so they get half and then half, as opposed to all these other events are 1-2 days, so it's extended a little bit longer, and that's why it's half and half. Is that correct? I think that's why.
Mayor and members of council, yes, they do need some seed money. A lot of the funding, their budget that they send to us is for marketing. And so we want them to be able to market their event well. That is the whole purpose of it. So it has been for many years, the contract has been written so they get the first half up front and the second half upon a review of them meeting all their contract obligations as well.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment, and I appreciate that your chair is here, because I've been to almost all of your meetings, the TDC meetings, and that you guys really do scrutinize, and I appreciate that when someone comes forward and doesn't have all of their, eggs in their basket, you make them go back and give them more information. And sometimes that's detrimental because they're depending on this money, but we're not just going to give money to something that doesn't benefit Scottsdale. So I appreciate your efforts on this.
Thank you.
Councilwoman DeBascus.
Thank you. I just had a question about that 30,000 that doesn't come to council. You had a list of an average funding was 9,000 in some and 11,000 in others. What's a total annual amount that was paid out under that?
Just under those 2 categories?
Yeah.
I don't know that I have that calculated. Let's see if I can. I want to say that I will get you close here. It is, for last year, the actuals, I think, were just over $400,000. We had 19 events in the community event funding, and we had 9 in the event venue program funding. So there are quite a few in there, but the smallest in the community event was, I think, $4,500 for a taco fest. The largest in that tranche was $27,000 for the Sun Circuit Horse Show. Then the event venue piece ranges up to $12,000. The highest amount you can get in the event venue is $12,000.
And what's the reason for it not coming to council? $400,000 a year that gets spent that council doesn't see is kind of a lot of money. So what's the reason for it to not come to council?
Thank you for the question, Mayor, members of council. So it was not originally, when this process was put into place back in 2014, that it would be, we had, for example, the Scottsdale Sports Complex would get a call and say, hey, we almost have this lacrosse, and is there any sort of funding support for that? The TDC meets monthly, and so if we wait for the TDC and then by the time we get it to council, it's another month, those opportunities might be missed. Also, it's a big staff investment for something that, it could be as low as $4,500 to have the legal department write a resolution, have the clerk's office, run it through that process, and all the staff time. So at the time, it was seen as an efficiency, and also an efficiency for our event producers as well for these small dollar items.
So maybe it's time that we take a look at the number 30,000. Maybe the number should be 15 or 20,000, just so that we have a little bit more of it running by council.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
So I guess I have a different approach, since I really do like our government staying efficient. So my question is not about getting into the weeds with a $10,000, $15,000 event, but wondering if instead there's review, and it is impressive. The TDC's review process is very, very impressive, and they are experts. But are we reviewing? Because we have a lot of events that every year go on and on and on. Every year we expect those events, but perhaps the tastes of our visitors or the desires of our residents are changing. So how are we reviewing the success of these events rather than necessarily, these small events, small to big events? How do we do that?
Mayor, members of council, we do post-event. We look at success largely by attendance. We look at their marketing spend in a lot of cases. We want folks we've heard from, not our full-service resorts that want to keep their guests on property, but other hoteliers want to have a community where, the first thing you do when you go someplace is what's going on in, wherever I'm visiting. And so we want to have a robust calendar. So these event producers, especially the external ones, they're bringing a lot of vibrancy to the area. So we measure it like that. We look year over year at the, return on the investment. There are some that we have counseled and some that don't apply anymore, some that they could never make their own event pencil out, because these are obviously businesses for folks. So we also look at things by our tourism drivers, which are golf, culinary, arts and culture, recreation, those sorts of things. So we want things, Western, of course, we want things that fit into those as well.
So do we have, okay, so thank you. And I do think it's true. If somebody, a lot of these smaller events, these 30,000 under events, aren't necessarily going to draw people from across the country, but people who are here for other reasons, it really enhances their experience. But again, I just wonder if there are some metrics that are public that we can review from small to big, just that track how events are doing, and over time too, especially if we have events.
Thank you, that's great input, we'll work on that.
Okay, thank you so much.
I don't see any other comments at this time, so go ahead and finish the presentation.
Okay, so the 5% destination marketing, we had a lot of speakers here on that today, and we don't disagree. We were excited by the results of that business engagement study, thought it gave us a lot of good direction in the future. So 25, 26, and again, as former Councilman Smith points out, we've only had this fund, this 5% fund, since 22, 23, kind of growing into it. It may seem slow, but it's better than it being seen as a waste. So in 25, 26, these are some of the areas that we are definitely spending that money in. There was a question during public comment about the regional event. This council approved the $225,000 for the Women's Final Four. We have, just as has happened in the past, accounted for that out of the 5% because thinking that these regional events draw people to Scottsdale because Scottsdale is where they want to stay. Is that correct? I don't know. That would be something that Judy is definitely thinking through, and it would be wonderful to have your direction on those sorts of things. But and I also wanted to touch on the RFP process that Bob and French brought up. We agree with them. We need more business engagement. We need more transparency. We are almost done with the RFP process and look forward to bringing you a contract soon as possible. I promise. I can't wait to do it. And an annual marketing plan that kind of mirrors the business plan that Experience Scottsdale puts together every year. We want to be transparent. We want to hear what the businesses have to say. And I don't disagree that the folks that have been down there a long time understand how to market their areas, and we could use their help. We have also committed to regular updates to the TDC. I did hear some comments about quarterly updates to council. We can put those updates to the TDC in writing as well and get those to you that way. But yes, happy to meet your expectations, exceed your expectations on whatever transparency anyone needs. It is a decent sum of money. This year we had budgeted $1.3 million. Because we don't have a new contract in place right now, we probably will spend much less than that, but excited to get a new marketing and advertising agency on board to help us do this work. And I wanted to say there was one other funding program that Steve brought forward in July. It also comes out of this 5% piece. It's the matching event marketing fund. Not very many events take advantage of this. Barrett Jackson and the Arabians have consistently done it. They do a lot of marketing outside of Maricopa County. I think Barrett Jackson had $120,000 advertising spent outside of Maricopa County last year. So once post-event, they prove that to us, and they're approved ahead of time, of course, then we will match up to $30,000 for that through that program. And this is just finally, I know that this forecasted ending fund balance doesn't match the budget book. We're already seeing savings in certain areas, and so I think that we will be close to these numbers by the end of the year, but we do have opportunity in there for new things should council agree with any future expenditures, and that's really it for me. So thank you, Mayor, and excited to talk about the 5% some more if you like.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
I'll talk about it. So that was done on my watch, and we did it to prepare and to prevent the general fund from being impacted should tourism dollars plummet. Instead, the economy and tourism roared, and so we should be celebrating the fact that so much revenue came in that we weren't prepared for that. So this is definitely a story of success. I appreciate some of the questions that my colleagues asked about how you review those events. You gave the example where an event did not get its funding, so I appreciate that. A couple of questions. Kind of ties back to what I said, is we have to be what our residents and visitors want. So we have to constantly evolve. I will say that I was at the railroad park for the 50th year, and I don't know how many thousands of people were there on Saturday. So, and the Roundhouse is getting 3,000 a week. I think 3,000 a week. Just amazing. So we are evolving. We are meeting the needs of what our visitors and residents want, but we can always do better. When we talk about plummeting numbers, daytime numbers, do we divide it by quadrant? Because I do spend quite a bit of time downtown, and I think some quadrants, I think it would be helpful for us to know, like, how is Fifth Avenue doing during the day versus how is the Northeast quadrant? Do we do that?
Mayor, members of council, Will Smith from the city manager's office, I think they're 2023 numbers, so they're getting dated fast, but he did do it by quadrant at the time, and so I think the slide that Bob Pejman showed was in aggregate. I can dig up those 2023 numbers if you like. The TDC did review those. Will Smith had a great presentation at the time, and the TDC did review those, so.
Yeah, I think by quadrant, because they're very, very different. I imagine the Northeast quadrant, which during the day is just business, is going to be, it would be helpful for me to evaluate how we're doing and what we need to do if it was divided by quadrant, and the aggregate doesn't help me that much. Also, I wanted to, the question about, or the request about staff getting more involved, it seems like we have a lot of new programs. We have June days, that was, I don't know, and then also the meetings. There are meetings, I want to say quarterly, at the Museum of the West. It'd be good just to know all the different opportunities, because we don't want to be stepping on each other's toes, and people won't be able to attend lots of meetings, so we just need to coordinate and make sure. I do like the idea of the merchant meetings that happen pretty regularly at Museum of the West.
Yeah, quarterly.
So,
Mayor, members of council, we have also, in response to that and in response to what we were hearing from the businesses in Old Town, we've also added in between those quarterly meetings we have at the Museum of the West, we've added a virtual one that has a marketing focus. Because what we've heard from Bob and French and others is that they weren't aware of what we're doing. They wanted to have some input on what we're doing, and we, love the engagement. So that next one is November, I want to say 7th, but I'm not really sure on that. So we are working on that. We will also have KPIs on with our new contract that includes sales tax in Old Town and those other measurables, just to make sure that we are holding ourselves to a high standard with this expenditure as well.
and then I want to make one more comment, and actually, I just to thank staff. So the Northeast quadrant, Fifth Avenue and Craftsman Court, we had a big construction project for a hotel there, and staff was really good at contractors would put up barricades, and our staff would go in there and pull down barricades and move barricades so that we could make sure that those businesses survived, these small businesses survived this construction. And the business owners, are very excited about the new hotel, and it's looking good. So I just want to commend staff for really reacting to our small businesses when there's temporary problems that could have long-term impacts on their ability to stay in business. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to chime in here because everyone that's on the list here has had a chance to speak so far. I have a couple of questions on this 5% destination marketing. It says regular updates to the TDC. So does the TDC ever get involved in voting on those types of uses for the city use portion?
We have Mayor, members of council, we have in the past provided an update, but not really an action item for the TDC. That is definitely something that we could consider as well. But like I mentioned, we will be putting in, performance indicators to make sure that contractually, whoever we bring on board is held accountable for what we want to see. So it's always hard to do marketing by committee, but we're open to those sorts of changes and looking forward to a new direction for sure.
Or maybe a quarterly, or at least twice a year, bring it before the TDC. That would maybe be helpful. And then the events that were being questioned about earlier that fall within the criteria of not going to the full council, just to be clear, the TDC does or does not vote on those?
They do recommend those. They do, and that's why even though they're below the purchasing threshold for, the $25,000 is the purchasing threshold, but because they come from the TDC and the TDC reports to you, I think at the time it was felt that there still should be that connection.
Okay, and then for my sake, I think it'd be helpful to see quarterly or biannual reports on those items that are not coming to council, and just to see how they've done and performed, and just get a read on what those events look like globally, or individually, I should say, even better. And would you say that a lot of those smaller events that are starting under those threshold $30,000, are those events that you see growing in the future, generally speaking, and is that a criteria for the process before the ones that don't come to the council?
Thank you, Mayor. That's an excellent question. So the Event Development Fund, the ones that always go to council, those are where we see the growth potential events. The ones that you will see that are the community events ones are, for example, like the Pony Express, the Sun Circuit, the Scottsdale Symphonic Orchestra, the Arizona Fall Championship, the Arizona Black Rodeo. So those are events we see year over year. I think they're always obviously trying to drive more traffic and ticket sales for those, but we don't necessarily, hopefully they have potential, but year over year they've been relatively similar.
Terrific, and I think just to err on the side of caution, maybe there's an opportunity to do, maybe a yearly or kind of quarterly look back. Maybe quarterly is too much, maybe a year is too long, but just a periodic look back to see, a study session like this that would potentially be helpful. So
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Welcome the opportunity.
Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for the city attorney, the parliamentarian. This item is described as presentation, discussion, and possible direction to staff. So can we propose changes up here, or do we need to agendize those if we were going to vote to make changes?
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, you can give direction to staff on this program. So as long as what was discussed is in the scope, that's appropriate direction.
Well, this has been an edifying presentation, and really what this was about was the bed taxes, $35 million a year, 50% to the events and other purposes, and then 50% to destination marketing. And then of that 50% to destination marketing, 5% of the total, so 10% of that, which is about $1.5 million, give or take, is retained by the city. And what the purpose of this meeting was to talk about that and kind of understand that process. And so what I'm getting at this is, what I would like to see is that the city, that, as far as that 5%, because like it was said earlier, it wasn't that much money a few years ago. Like former council member David Smith said, we really didn't, until just recently, we hadn't really just been a pot of money that's been sitting there unspent. Come to council with a marketing plan every year for us to approve, and open up the ad agency that we use to competitive bid. And part of that marketing plan, we would divide the funds in a way that makes sense intuitively, whether that's by district or by category, something that promotes parity. And, something, I could see something like arts and culture, shopping and dining, entertainment, but something that, these are kind of questions for the experts, but something that it makes intuitive sense, some sort of grouping system, some sort of taxonomical system that makes sense. Establish a dedicated stakeholder liaison would be nice. Would you understand what I meant by that?
Yes.
Okay. Council oversight and public transparency. So in addition to each fiscal year, we approve the marketing plan. We also approve expenditures that exceed the procurement threshold. So those are kind of some of the reforms that I envision, and maybe I can get sort of a sense from my colleagues that we might want to sort of go that way. If that's too nebulous, if there's too much nebulousness to that, or maybe we could have to agendize it and for an up or down vote. But that's kind of how I see some reforms to bring greater transparency. And I mean, it just goes back to, we saw the chart earlier. Daytime traffic is down. Midnight traffic is up. It doesn't engender families and family visitors. It doesn't make you think about arts and culture. It kind of makes you feel like the whole process is maybe not moving in the direction that some of us thought. Some of us had vision for that part of Scottsdale. So I'll leave it at that, and maybe I can get some nods or some approval from my colleagues, and if not, then we can go from there. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman DeBoscus.
Thank you. Thank you for doing the Keene report. It took some vulnerability to have someone go out there and meet with 150 merchants and ask them for their feedback, and to get some of the feedback was it was a little bit honest, right? There was a lot of really honest feedback in there, and it was a very detailed report. So I appreciate you being open to hearing what they had to say. And at the last merchant mixer, we walked through it and have been very transparent with the merchants about that, and responsive to the feedback from the merchants that they feel like they need more, some help here. And what I thought was very interesting is the experience that I had at the last merchant mixer, asking folks in the audience, how has your summer been? Got a lot of thumbs down, right? You saw that. A lot of people were expressing that their business is not what it has been in years past. We had a hotelier at our last boards and commission meeting appointment come up and say that it's been the worst summer since 2008. And so we are seeing several restaurants closing in Old Town, things like that. So something's definitely going on in Old Town. And so I really appreciate being open to hearing the feedback and saying, what is it? Part of the conversations that I have had with Experience Scottsdale is kind of along these lines of we don't want to hurt any sector of Old Town. At the same time, we do have a brand of arts and culture in Scottsdale that we're known for nationwide. We want to promote that. And Experience Scottsdale has done a lovely job of pivoting and really focusing on foodies and golfing and sports and luxury travelers, things like that. And so we have a great opportunity here to dovetail with how they are pivoting as well to bring some of those additions into Old Town. And I think the feedback that we've gotten has been that they would really like that. So one of the items that we have kind of touched on, and I know that we are advertising for a liaison with Old Town, is that there seems to be a feeling of we're not really sure what's going on. And I think from the city perspective, we would say there's emails going out, we do the merchant mixer, we have all this stuff on the website. What do you mean you don't know what's going on? And so we feel like we're communicating, but clearly it's not getting through. So I think the idea of the liaison is going to be really helpful. Someone who could go to the businesses, maybe, right? And have some dedicated time to go and talk with them. And instead of hiring Keene, we could have a person who could actually be out there on the ground and give us immediate feedback and intelligence about what's going on in the community. And so I think you're already in the process of doing that, so I think that's really good. We also have the opportunity to take a look at, if we've got someone on the ground, what are some businesses that are vacant? Maybe we could dovetail with the Economic Development Department and work with them to bring in, the right kinds of the restaurants or vendors so that they all have the opportunity for success. So I think there's some really good opportunities for us to do some really nice work together across the city and to promote Old Town overall. So I just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate the work and appreciate you being open to the feedback from lots of different sources here.
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly. I look forward to those opportunities. I was hoping not to be chained to my computer so much, and I would be the person down there, but that hasn't happened yet. So thank you very much, and thank you for attending our Merchant Mixer. It means a lot to our Old Town business owners.
I see City Manager would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to give some response to the Councilman Graham and Councilwoman DeBosca's kind of feedback there. I think what we have is an opportunity with our new RFP on the street, not only to make something better, what we have historically done, but really recalibrate and working closely with Experience Scottsdale, as you referenced, and align our new marketing efforts in a much more transparent way. So what I might suggest is kind of some next steps. We're wrapping up that process. Once we get that contractor on board, we really are revamping that marketing program going forward. So that, as the mayor referenced, those check-ins are going to be much more frequent than they have historically been. We also wanted to introduce tonight, this is really the 5%, but going back to the 50% discussion, and I think we have an opportunity. I might suggest that we come back, if you're so willing, with some ideas around the budget time to really realign the 50% with how we're spending the dollars. And more specifically, what I mean by that is modernizing the percentages, even more granular on that. We have an event funding that is not falling within the event funding category, and therefore is putting some stress on some other areas, which I actually think could relieve and allocate additional dollars in the 5%. And really putting more marketing dollars into the marketplace in Old Town, I think could have a significant return on investment. So if you're amenable to that type of discussion, then we can do some work in that regard, return through the budgetary process, introduce those concepts, and look for implementation in 26, 27. But again, coming full circle, we hear the feedback, appreciate the feedback, and we have very high expectations for the new vendor when we get them on board, with really a recalibration and how we see the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, mostly my notes have already been spoken, so I'm not going to repeat them. Just know that I also feel the same way that Jan Tabakis, Barry Graham, and Mr. Caton have said. I think we need some more one-on-one discussions with some of the people in Old Town, the Arts District, and I think it needs to come from the owners, from the business people who are actually having to live through some of this reduction in income, in people coming into their shops, and seeing if they have some ideas that they can give us from their aspect as to how we can help them with their business moving forward. So my thoughts were pretty much on the exact same line. I think we need to give some more attention to the Old Town area and make sure that we do all that we can to keep it moving forward. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. I just have a couple of closing thoughts to the city manager's point. I would love to get that information as far in advance as the preliminary budget adoption meetings as possible, so that we have a full opportunity to vet those ideas and changes that you're predicting or working on. And then I'm a big fan of stakeholder involvement. And on that note, what where do the Old Town or downtown ambassadors stand? Is that a group of people, volunteers? I mean, I think I went to the lunch and the annual lunch, and there were over 100 downtown ambassadors that are volunteering for the health and well-being and prosperity to contribute to the prosperity in Old Town and downtown. And I mean, I think it'd be great, and I'm sure they'd be willing to really foster and tap into those resources. I'm not the biggest fan of having the council micromanage every little idea that comes across your desk, although I do believe in the transparency and the accountability that we entrust you to do. But I'd love to have you brainstorm with the city manager and see how can we use those volunteers better and position them as stakeholders with the downtown businesses. I just see that as kind of a lost opportunity if they're not already dispatched in that regard, but maybe we can do that.
Yes,
So
thank
just
you very much, Mayor, and I
food for
think
thought.
we could improve that. We do right now, they help deliver collateral and bring messages door to door with the Old Town merchants. They are also great at determining what our visitors want to see as far as guides and things like that. But I think you're right, there are absolutely more opportunities. It's a huge engaged group.
It sure is. Okay, thank you very much. I don't have any other questions or comments. And I don't see anyone else that does. And we appreciate your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
All right, look forward to continuing the dialogue. So with that, I'll accept a motion. That was our only item on work study to adjourn this special meeting.
I move to adjourn. Special meeting.
And now we're going to convene our 5 o'clock meeting that was set to start 13 minutes ago. So with that, I'd like to call the October 7th, 2025 City Council regular meeting to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, please conduct a roll call for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski,
Present.
Vice Mayor Adam Quasman, Council members Jan DeBoscus,
Here.
Barry Graham,
Here.
Kathy Littlefield,
Here?
Mary Ann McCallan,
Present.
and Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Greg Caton.
Here.
Interim City Attorney Louis Santea.
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
Acting City Auditor Lake Clough.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. This evening, we have Scottsdale police officers, Sergeant Bowles, Sergeant Clore, Officer Sherlock, and Sergeant Pitt, as well as firefighter Hunter Ferguson. If anyone requires their assistance, please let a member of staff know. For the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to ask Councilwoman McCallan to lead us. Thank you very much. And for the invocation this evening, Councilman Graham, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very honored very excited about tonight's invocation. I will go ahead and invite Chaplain Ed Ho down to the lectern right here. And as he's approaching the lectern, I just want to say a few things about Chaplain Ho and the Scottsdale Fire Department chaplaincy. Ed Ho was one of the chaplains with the Scottsdale Fire Department. After a 32-year career as a fire captain in Southern California, Ed and his wife, Laura, relocated to Arizona in 2020. During his tenure with Ventura County Fire Department, Ed was the department's critical incident stress and peer support program manager. After attending Highlands Church up in North Scottsdale, for several months, Ed and Laura met Chief Chaplain, if I might say, top dog.
My boss.
Your boss, Mark Ewell, and Ed asked Mark what he could do to be of service to the church, the community, and the Lord. Chaplain Ewell said that at the meeting, that meeting was a blessing, and that he had the perfect calling. For the past several months, Ed has been going through the onboarding process at Scottsdale Fire Department chaplain and is dedicated to providing compassionate spiritual care, emotional support, and crisis counseling to firefighters, their families, and the community. Ed is grateful for the opportunity to serve our Lord through his dedication to the members of the Scottsdale Fire Department and our community. And I'll just briefly remark, on Friday, we dedicated Fire Station 612 at Mayo Boulevard in Hayden, and Mr. Ho was kind enough to invocate and give a warm welcome and bless the fire department up there in North Scottsdale. He did a fantastic job, and I'm honored that he accepted my invitation to open tonight's meeting with an invocation, if you may.
Thank you, Councilman Graham. Madam Mayor, council members, my extreme gratitude for being here. I appreciate the invitation, and it's an honor and a duty that I feel that it's a blessing. I also would like to thank Fire Chief Tom Shannon for his unwavering support and allowing this to occur. So if you wouldn't mind, bow your heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with grateful hearts, seeking your wisdom and guidance in the work set before us. You have entrusted us with the care of this community, its people, its resources, and its future. Lord, as our mayor and city council members discuss matters of growth, infrastructure, and the stewardship of our city's finances, grant them the wisdom to make decisions that honor you and serve all who call Scottsdale, Arizona, home. Bless our department leaders, staff, and citizens with patience, humility, and understanding. Where there is disagreement, sow peace. Where there is uncertainty, provide clarity. And where there is ambition, temper it with compassion. May every decision made tonight contribute not only to a stronger city with infrastructure, roads, buildings, but to a stronger sense of unity, justice, and hope within our community. Lord, we ask these things in your glory. Amen.
Thank you. As in for the mayor's report, Councilman Graham touched on this event, but it's notable and worthy of repeating. Last week was a big our fire department and also police celebration. We first had the opening, cut the ribbon, proud to do that, at 612, our first 4-bay engine facility, up just adjacent to the 101, and great location at Hayden and the 101, so it'll service a lot of our northern area much more efficiently, reducing response times. And as that area continues to grow, that's a blessing to our community up there. And a beautiful station. I encourage you to go see it. State-of-the-art facility, and really a nice job there. And I should also mention 2019 bond, voter-approved bond program at work and fulfilled. So check. Excited about that. Then that same day, we had the Exchange Club who hosted the Scottsdale Officer and Firefighter of the Year luncheon. So that was exciting up at the Fairway House at Greyhawk Golf Club. And we sure appreciate the Exchange Club for that worthy event and cause of celebrating our public safety heroes. So that was a wonderful day. And moving right along, so thank you for all of those who participated and attended, and look forward to more of the same. So for tonight's presentation, we have, very excited about this, our employee recognition program, where the council is recognizing employees with 20 years or more service as of October 2025. So this is exciting.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you once again for welcoming us. I'm Kelly Corsett, the Communications and Public Affairs Director, and I am actually going to hand the baton tonight to Holly Peralta, who's our Public Affairs Supervisor, who has been running our Years of Service recognition program for at least the past 10 years. We were trying to calculate it in our heads, but we're confident with that number, so I'll hand it over to Holly.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski and City Council members. We have once again gathered, and we're pleased to have time this evening to honor city employees who have dedicated 20 or more years to the city of Scottsdale. Colleagues who are reaching those milestone anniversaries, as you said, this month. Through our Years of Service Recognition Program, employees reaching milestone anniversaries receive a modest gift of appreciation, including challenge coins or other items with special significance to Scottsdale. The employees achieving 20 years of service, for example, receive a small but beautiful Solari bell. We also thank the mayor and city council for providing a thank you card along with a gift card to each employee who completes their first year of service with the city and every milestone anniversary after that. It's all part of honoring those who answer the call of public service, the outstanding city staff who deliver the city's mission, simply better service for a world-class community. To the colleagues who are joining us tonight, your service represents more than time. It reflects commitment, leadership, and an enduring impact to our community. The full list of staff reaching these milestone anniversaries is on the screen before you. But tonight, these city staff celebrating 20 or more years of service with the city of Scottsdale are able to join us for this special moment of public recognition. So I will call those names of those who are here with us tonight, and please make your way to the front of the kiva. Celebrating 20 years of service, Robert Fisher, Michael Hitt, Eric Schwartz, Michael Seemiller, and Meredith Tessier. Celebrating 25 years of service, Terry Raymond and Stacy Williamson. And we also have an employee celebrating 30 years of service, Terry Wardell. Because of all of you, Scottsdale is not only a great place to live and visit, but also a great place to work. And thank you for your decades of service, your loyalty, and the difference you continue to make every day. I'll ask the mayor and city council to make their way down to the screen for a photograph, and while they do that, I'll ask for a round of applause. And do we have anyone else out there that we didn't name who's here tonight? Okay.
Next, we have a possible executive session announcement. During tonight's meeting, the council may make a motion to recess into executive session to obtain legal advice on any applicable item on the agenda. If authorized by the council, the executive session will be held immediately, will not be open to the public, and will resume following the executive session. Next, we have, I don't see anyone. There's not enough people here to make a motion to adjourn into executive session, but we don't need to do that anyway. All right. Next, we have public comment, which is reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and our property owners to comment on non-agendized items that are within the council's jurisdiction. No official council action can be taken on these items, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes to address the council. If you wish to speak on non-agendized or agendized topics, please see the city clerk. We'll start with Dan Isaac.
Mayor, since my comments are directly related to two absent council members, can I wait until they return from their bathroom break?
I don't have any problem with that if you want to rotate to the back. There's 6 people speaking.
Thank you.
Next, we have Susan Wood, who has donated her time to Dan Isaac. I don't see Susan in attendance. Peggy Klein. Is Peggy here? Okay.
So facing it like this? Yeah, I'm going to do the video first. Okay. Okay. You're going to play the video? I'm going to just, I'll introduce myself. I'm Peggy Klein, and I live in zip code 85251. Video, please.
This is the first day of the meteorological fall, so we can now put a bow on summer and review these stats. And this summer in Phoenix ranked number 4 for the hottest summers of all time. Check out the difference. The hottest summer on record for Phoenix in first place last year, 2024, with an average temperature of 98.9. Has increased over the years. When you look at that average from 1896 to 2025, that average was 90.4. But if you start at 2000, you could see how it's gotten a lot warmer. The average temperature for summer, 94.7. But even 2025 is warmer than the new normal.
Thank you. 4 of the past 6 summers have been the hottest in Valley history. This is why, although Scottsdale is our home, we no longer live here year-round. In summertime, our sales tax goes to another community, and every year we stay away longer. Slide 1. Phoenix is on track to meet the goals outlined in its 2024 action plan to increase tree canopy and build shade. Meanwhile, Scottsdale doesn't even have a plan. Our shade and tree plan was supposed to be completed last December. Where is it? Okay, remove this one. We had a sustainability plan. This council repealed it. I've heard a lot of falsehoods about that plan from some members of this council. For example, that it would mandate rationing of water and electricity, that it was Scottsdale's Green New Deal, that it contained no actions. Well, these are just 3 of the actions in that plan related to trees and built shade. I don't see anything terribly radical here. For example, develop partnership with local utilities for tree planting programs, promote shading for the site hardscape on existing commercial and multifamily developments. Who doesn't look for a shaded parking space and wish there was more of them? And lastly, develop educational resources about above and below ground space needs for tree health. Too often, trees are destined to die or be cut down because of how and where they're planted. How sad it is to see an empty, bare dirt planter that used to be landscaped, and what a waste of resources. More and more, I hear people making plans to leave, and not just for the summer, but moving away for cooler places. Extreme heat is a threat to our health, our economy, our property values, and our desert. You repeal the sustainability plan. What is your plan to address the root causes of our increasingly hotter city? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve Sutton.
Good evening, Honorable Lisa Borowski, Mayor of Scottsdale, and other council members. Last week, you voted to send a resident petition to the city manager for investigation and a report. The petition specifies what residents are expecting of you and the city manager. Residents expect an investigation to be conducted that will determine if a multi-story garage expansion at the Brown Avenue parking corral is actually needed and is not just something wanted by a small group of people motivated by business and political self-interest. Residents expect an investigation to be conducted that will determine if alternatives to building a garage are sufficient for current and future parking needs. In conducting these investigations, residents expect the city manager to use all appropriate investigative methods, including an independent parking and traffic study of the southern quadrants of Old Town that includes ride-sharing service impact, use of better signs directing drivers to parking areas, electronic monitoring of parking to provide street-side real-time information to drivers, and the making of agreements with the owners of privately owned parking areas for public use of their facilities. There are several other factors other than the results of the investigations previously mentioned that the council should consider before signing a construction contract for a garage at the parking corral. Tonight, due to the time constraints, I can only mention one. Scottsdale residents love the farmers market. The farmers market is an institution, a tradition, a memory-filled destination that Scottsdale residents love. If the farmers market is moved from the parking corral, many Scottsdale residents will not be happy. Regardless of any investigative results and the best intentions of the city council, if Scottsdale loses its farmers market because the owners refuse to move or closes due to the new location being financially unviable, Scottsdale residents are going to be furious. Moving the farmers market from the parking corral is not just a simple task of finding an available vacant open space or parking lot for them to set up on. The location must be logistically feasible for setup and operational layout. If it is not, that alone could hinder operation to the point of closure. The location must also be convenient for the farmers market's customers. Another consideration is the need for the Scottsdale's farmer market to continue to financially benefit the brick and mortar retails in historic Old Town near its current location. If the Scottsdale City Council follows through with their intent to relocate the farmers market to the parking lot on the backside of City Hall, that may result in the loss of the farmers market. And that may cause some members of the City Council to be forever identified as the people who killed the Scottsdale Farmers Market. Thank you, Mayor Borowski.
Thank you very much. Now circling back to Dan Isaac, and I see you have donated time from Sue Wood, and will 4 minutes cut it for you? No, let's do 4. Let's do 4.
Mayor, Dan Isaac, address on record. I had 3 topics, but I'm going to defer one because I haven't heard back from the city attorney regarding a very important First Amendment case from the Ninth Circuit that applies to Arizona, and I want Mr. Quasman to be present as well. 2 topics then. The first has to do with Jan DeBoscus claiming a potential conflict of interest over involuntary, non-paid, non-decision-making, advisory-only board candidate. Again, there is no legal justification to have that concern because it is non-decision-making, advisory, voluntary, non-paid. Contrast that, and her concern was because the person had an association with an organization that's suing the city. I want to contrast that with Kathy Littlefield, who's a member of TASE, who's married to Bob Littlefield, who's the head of TASE, who has filed a lawsuit not just against the state, but also the city of Scottsdale and individual employees of the city of Scottsdale. And she is a paid decision maker for the city of Scottsdale. So I'm wondering why Jan had no issues with Kathy voting on anything Axon related, but raised a false issue of somebody who had no decision making. Ethics should be applied consistently. Second topic goes to the many misstatements, misinformation, and omissions regarding the petition by TASE at the last meeting. Kathy started them by saying that we had a statutory requirement, her words, to hold it in November. She is incorrect. The city manager, the city clerk, and I assume reviewed by the city attorney, advised the entire council that it was not required to be in November of 2026. So her statement was categorically false. Barry Graham repeatedly talked about statutory and constitutional scheduling. He did not use the word required because he knew it wasn't required, but he figured that if he kept saying statutorily and constitutionally scheduled, people would believe that it had to be in 2026. That is incorrect. His next comment was that 27,000 people were led to believe that the election would be in November of 2026. Now let's start with the preposterous claim that he knows what was in the minds of 27,000 people. Barry, you collected few, if any, of the actual signatures, so you are not in a position to say what people thought. There are dozens of petition circulators who would contradict Barry's statement and said that the date of the election was not even discussed in the collection of signatures. But let's also talk about 27,000. If I could have the overhead, please. It's about time that Barry and Taze stopped saying that 27,000 people signed. This is an extract of how many signatures were actually subject to validation, which was only 23,673 because the other 3,000 didn't meet the basic requirements. And then based on sampling, that was further reduced to only 19,000. So let's stop lying about the 27,000. Also, let's talk about what the general election is. The petition language specifically said the next general election or city or town election. So the language of the petition does not suggest November 2026. And by the way, if you care about the next general election, most of you have received this that says that we're about to have a general election in 2025 in November. So the next general election is actually next month. Barry also lied about the cost associated with the election. He said it was going to be $700,000, even though the memo from the city clerk said it was only going to be $615,000, and he failed to mention that the election in November of 2026 is going to cost $327,000. So it's really only $300,000 incremental cost, not $700,000. That's quite an error for an accountant. And by the way, we could have had it in November of 2025 without any additional cost. I have more misstatements, but I'm limited by time, so I will take my seat.
Was
Thank you.
was that 4 minutes?
That was 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. That concludes the public comments. Councilman Graham. Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to make one correction. Mr. Isaac, I am not a member of TASE. I do not go to their meetings. I do not ask what they discussed. And my husband doesn't really tell me unless it's something that I overhear on the telephone. That's about it, in which case I close the door. I am not involved in TASE. And my husband is. I didn't even know he was the president until it came out in one of these meetings and he told me he was. So that's not at all correct, just for the record. Thank you.
Pardon me, I'm going to interrupt this because we overlooked one speaker. Brian Scott, are you here? While he makes his way down. Councilman Graham, go ahead.
I'll just respond briefly. A lot of, aspersions cast at my colleagues, Councilwoman Dabauskas and Littlefield, were regretful and inaccurate and mean-spirited. And Mr. Ishak, it should be noted that he altered what was the wording in the referendum by omitting the word regular for the next regular general election. So that was altered in his presentation. And the Councilmember Littlefield's affiliation has been looked into and the conflict of interest has been debunked over and over. So that has been settled, and I don't appreciate the attacks on somebody who I think enjoys widespread resident support. Thank you.
All right. Brian Scott.
Thank you,
Please
Council.
continue.
First, I would like to commend the Parks and Rec Department for their awesome Rewind 90s night. It was fun and a great use of the Civic Center. Tonight, I want to talk about Scottsdale's brand. I was surprised to find, according to Experience Scottsdale, Scottsdale's brand is effortless revitalization. Not heritage, not horses, not the most western town. It's about leaving Scottsdale feeling better than when you arrived. Sounds more like a day spa than a city. Experience Scottsdale receives around $15 million per year in public tourism dollars. And the CEO, Rachel Sacco, while maybe not a public employee, pays herself more than $700,000 salary per year. More than the governor of Arizona, more than the president, and double what the city manager earns. At what point do we ask, what exactly are we revitalizing? Meanwhile, Scottsdale's Western identity is being sidelined for luxury branding and wellness buzzwords. So I'm asking a simple question. What oversight exists over Experience Scottsdale? Because $700,000 in public money doesn't feel effortless to many Scottsdale residents. I respectfully request the city manager detail Experience Scottsdale's current contract with the city, executive compensation structure, and what accountability metrics are in place. Lastly, I'll leave you with 2 Google reviews. Quote, Experience Scottsdale was extraordinarily difficult to find. They didn't even have a staff person at their booth. They said they were open from Monday to Friday one place. Another location said they were open Wednesday to Sunday. Maybe they need to get somebody who understands communications. They were of no help to us in understanding or experiencing Scottsdale. Fortunately, we're pretty good at figuring out stuff on our own. Another review says, quote, I've called 4 times within a week and pressed every option there is. Nobody has returned my calls. I don't think anyone even works there.
Thank you. All right, now that concludes public comment on non-agendized items. So we will move to the approval of the meeting minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve special meeting, work study, and possible executive session minutes of August 18th, 2025, and regular meeting and work session minutes of August 25th, 2025.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please register your vote. Excellent. Next, we have consent agenda items 1 through 11B. Do any members of the council have any questions or wish to? Yeah, we're going to go to, actually, Councilwoman Littlefield, I think we'll go to public comment first before, okay? Thank you so much. And we have public comment. First, let's start with Howard Back, and this is item number 4, the 68th Street Storm Drain Project IG agreement, IGA.
Mayor, city councilors, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is almost 4 years since we approached this council to develop a sidewalk on 68th Street between Camelback and Indian School Road. And regardless of the urgency of the project, today, I can still not walk on 68th Street, you cannot walk on 68th Street, and no citizen of the city of Scottsdale can safely walk down that sidewalk. And so today, as you consider this item on the consent agenda, it is the last technical piece needed to advance this project. We're asking you for your support and hope that you can enthusiastically embrace a project that gives us all an opportunity for the city of Scottsdale to have a win, for something constructive that advances the community, makes things better, and really does a good job for everybody. It shows that you can work together and shows that you can advance the community for the best interest of the community. We want to thank you for your support and your ongoing diligence in advancing this project, and thank you very much for your time. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Next, on item number 5, Parada del Sol Parade and Trails and Fun Festival funding, we have Brian Scott, again, followed by Noah James Markham.
Council members, I'm here to show my strong support for the Prado del Sol Parade. Frankly, I'm surprised it's not funded even more. This is Scottsdale's signature event, a celebration of Western heritage, family fun, and civic pride. No other city has anything like it. It's one of the best days of the year. It's part of what makes Scottsdale, Scottsdale. January 31st, don't miss it.
Thank you for that advertisement. We appreciate it. Excellent. Well done. Next, we have Noah James Markham.
Aloha City Council and to the rest of the, aloha Mayor and to the rest of the City Council. I am from the great city of Tempe. I would like to talk about Agenda 5, which I agree. I know we should keep on funding events because we are Arizona. And I also, if we continue events like these or concerts and any other events in Scottsdale, that we should always require a sign language interpreter, no matter what event is going on. Consent Agenda 11, I agree that we should be spending this especially with people with disabilities. And they have the right accommodations so they can succeed successfully at school. Education system, that maybe people that are in the schools, that they can teach police officers how to have better education with people with disabilities. So yes, I agree that we need fund education. As a Democrat myself, information from Donald Trump saying that stop taking Tylenol because it causing autism is not education. I also agree that women can understand other women, that they have the right to choose if they want to have an abortion, and it's their body choice. And education other people about women having miscarriages is another thing. And all about the doctor and the woman. I love women empowerment.
Excuse me, sir. This public comment is reserved for the agendized items only. So if you could keep your comments to that. We ask the same of every speaker. We would sure appreciate it.
And an education system, especially Democratic women, hopefully we can have more education with DEI, with education. Mahalo and thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you for coming to join us. Appreciate it. That concludes all the public speakers on the consent agenda items. So circling back to, I think we left off with Councilwoman Littlefield, so I'll start with you.
I just had a quick question for the city manager, please. On item number 7 on consent, it has to do with 160 temporary horse stall panels to be put up at Westworld in our continuing efforts to upgrade Westworld and keep it going. I had thought during some previous conversations that some of the increases in the number of stalls that would go up there would be permanent. Are they all going to be temporary so they can be removed, or are we planning on increasing the number of permanent stalls as well?
Madam Mayor and Councilwoman Littlefield, I'll call a colleague here as he approaches the podium to explain the detail. I'll stretch time a little bit and say this item is a follow-up to our discussion several months ago about some short-term items, and specifically the stalls. We have temporary stalls that have fallen in disrepair, and this is meant to address that. We also have a bond project that over years brings some permanent stalls, but my colleague here, Will, can speak in greater detail to your question. Thank you.
For the mayor and the councilor, yes, indeed, we are as the city manager has indicated, we have both temporary stalls and permanent stalls, And we are in the process of replacing the permanent stalls too. It's a project that's been going on for the last few years so that we always have good permanent stalls. But our temporary stalls are in need of replacement, and that is why item number 7 is before you today.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure we were keeping up with the need for the permanent stalls as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, I have a couple items I want to comment on. First of all, the sidewalk, 68th Street sidewalk. Thrilled to see that moving forward with the drainage project. We certainly are efficient. I also commend staff. We talked about the public address system. It's already on the agenda. Good job, City Manager. And I want to call out our solid waste folks. I don't know if they're still here, if they're hiding, but yay, we just got 2 grants for recycling. We generate so much there they are. I see them in the back. We got grants. They got grants, and we have so much cardboard at Westworld, and now the city will be able to recycle that, and then the food waste diversion grant. So congratulations to all staff involved in these items.
Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to call out funding for Prado del Sol, which was already funded. I'm not wearing a cool hat and celebrating it as enthused as other people, but I think this is going to be, well, it's the 75th year of, I don't know, what was the first year? Does anybody know of Prado del Sol? I wonder if this was a landmark year or not, a benchmark year.
We have an expert.
Oh, do we have an expert in the House?
Dennis Robbins, the Charo's executive
Okay,
director. It's 75 years, isn't it? Is that just the rodeo?
I don't think the Prado has been going on as long as the city's been around.
Yeah, the rodeo started before, I think we were.
Mayor, members of the council, I was afraid you would see me back there. No, I think the Prado is 2 years younger than the actual city is. So I think it started in 53. So this would be the 73rd Prado, but we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the city at the Prado.
We should recognize two-term former councilman Dennis Robbins, who also leads the Charos. Anything else we can say about you?
No, I wish I had a cool hat too, but I love this guy. He says we should get more money. But we really thank you very much for everything you do for the Prado. We're happy to be a part of it.
We, up here, these members, my colleagues, we trust this year will be bigger and better than ever.
Absolutely, 100%.
Very good.
And you all will be in it.
Can't wait. Calendars are marked.
Hey, Dennis, stay up there for 1 minute.
Sure.
And I want to take this opportunity to sing the accolades of the Charos who took this event over fully over the last 3 years. I was a proud member of the foundation board of the Charos for 6 years, and during my term and your tenure, the Charos stepped back in and took this event over, and it's been exceedingly successful and growing year over year. So great job on that. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to this year.
Yeah, thank you for all of your support.
I knew about that. I didn't want to bring it up to add pressure.
Yeah.
So, but now the pressure's on.
Thank you. No, pressure's on you. Vote correctly.
Well, yeah, we'll share the credit. Who gets the blame?
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you very much.
And then I have one more comment on the item that my colleague, Councilwoman Littlefield, brought up, number 5. Number 7, Bond 2019 project. Another box checked off, 58 project list. We are working as a city to get those done. We fell behind and got bitten by the inflation, got bitten by the teeth of inflation. But we're playing catch up now, and we're happy to check another one of those lines off the list. And I'm seeing nods from our city treasurer and our city manager. So thank you for your collaboration in executing this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so seeing no more comments, now I'd like to entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 11B.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate your vote. All right, moving on to regular agenda item regular agenda items, actually. We'll start with item number 12, and this is a staff request to adopt ordinance 4693, amending our revised code, Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 17, relating to the Budget Review Commission, and I am going to make a motion to continue this item because the chair of this commission, who is my appointee, resigned before he got started, and I've selected a new chair as a result, who is going through the process of getting credentialed and situated as the chair of the commission. So I would like to include that person's input in this process, and as a result, I'd ask the council, I'm going to make a motion to continue this to the next regular agenda. He's partway through the process, from what I understand, so there won't be any significant delay.
Second.
Go ahead.
I just seconded.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Yeah, I have a question. So I've heard from some BRC members a desire to, like the other commissions, to be able to vote and choose their own chair. And there's some confusion about whether that has to be done before the current, well, it should be done before the newest member is appointed chair. And I wonder if, I mean, I support a continuance, but I don't want to miss an opportunity to make that slight change to the commission and have the members, have the new person brought on, but have the members have the opportunity to vote on their own chair. Is that agreeable to my colleagues?
City Attorney.
Mayor and members of the council, I wasn't sure if Councilwoman Whitehead was posing a question. If so, I can answer that question.
Yeah, of course, it's a question. So I don't mind continuing till the entire BRC is seated, but I know that I would prefer to see the members get together, pick a chair, and move on. But I don't know if we preclude that opportunity if we don't make that change tonight.
So the council could vote to make that change tonight. If it doesn't make that change, the mayor's pick will be the chair of the Budget Review Commission. However, if the council later makes that change at a later date, it would not preclude the commission from adopting its own rules and changing how the chair is selected.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, may I make an alternate motion? 5-4. I would like to, unless other people want to speak first. Okay, I will just go ahead and make an alternate motion just to continue with the exception of changing the policy on the chair tonight, but I will wait and hear what my colleagues have to say.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilwoman. I do have an alternate motion that I would like to make. I would like to adopt ordinance number 4693 relating to the Budget Review Commission as presented in the following amendments. The language of, and I quote, "with the mayor appointing one member who shall serve as chair of the commission," unquote, being deleted and repealed under section 2-381, subsection B. A new subsection C is added to section 2-382 to read as follows: establish the procedure for selecting a chair and a vice chair of the commission. Thank you. And I think that's basically what you had in mind, Solange.
Yeah, actually, I was envisioning other changes too. Okay. I will second that.
But,
Councilman Graham.
yeah, so did you, I'm confused up here. We didn't have a presentation. I thought we would have a presentation. We have a public speaker on this item.
Well, we had a motion to continue, which
Right.
just got turned into
So,
an alternative motion.
So I think what happened was we had a motion to continue. We had a couple alternate motions, one of them being to approve the item, which was a good motion that I support, but I oppose continuing this, any part of it, personally. But I thought we should maybe we just address the motion to continue, and then we hear the public speaker, we hear the presentation, then we vote on the item. Councilmember Whitehead, you made the motion, so is that satisfactory?
Yeah, actually, I think that is a good point. I would like the presentation and the public remarks, and then, so I'm going to retract even my second and my motion until that. And is there a prepared presentation?
If I may interrupt, I'll withdraw my motion to continue pending the presentation. How's that? So now there's no motion on the table. If you'll do the same, Councilwoman Littlefield.
Okay.
We'll hear the presentation. Thank you.
Next slide. So just some background about the Budget Review Commission, or BRC, for the larger audience. The Budget Review Commission was established this year in January. The purpose of the BRC is to review and advise council on the proposed budget, major revenue forecasts, and budget policies. And the work of the BRC does not replace the responsibilities of the City Council. City Council remains fully responsible for the city budget, assessment of any taxes and fees, and setting budget policies. Next slide. The Budget Review Commission conducted a series of meetings between February and April this year to review budget topics and the proposed budget for the fiscal year. After the series of meetings, we received very positive feedback from the Budget Review Commission members, staff, and council for the work that they did. We also received feedback from the BRC members themselves to provide additional clarity on their work and also to simplify their process. The main interest of the Budget Review Commission members is to make sure that they have clear direction from council on review of budget topics, and also that they don't want to place undue burden on staff time and resources. With the feedback that we received and the interest of the BRC members and staff, we are proposing several code amendments for the BRC. Next page, please. The first amendment is to clarify the work of the BRC. The primary purpose of the BRC is to review the proposed budget the staff has developed before it goes to council. That involves reviewing the operating and capital budget appropriations that are proposed, including any new requests, new appropriations, revenue projections, and such. Next slide. The next proposed amendment is to simplify the recommendation process. Currently, the existing ordinance requires the BRC to provide recommendations in a written report, which adds significant commission time and staff resources. The proposed change would allow the recommendations to be either in a written report to be presented to council or in a public presentation to council. This would cut down on commission and staff time. And the proposed change would also require that recommendations be reviewed, discussed, and approved by a quorum of the BRC. Next slide. This next proposed amendment is to add a section to allow the BRC members to do some in-depth reviews at the direction of council. The BRC is currently not specifically authorized by their ordinance to do any in-depth reviews or audits of that nature of operations. If council would like them to do some in-depth examination and analysis of topics or areas, here's what it could look like in practice. Annually, the BRC would identify some focus areas, develop a work plan for council consideration and approval. BRC members may examine detailed records with department staff based on this work plan. There are some concerns with this approach. These in-depth reviews, or deep dives as we call them, could take up significant staff time. It could be duplicative of what the city manager or city auditor is doing. It may not necessarily yield any benefit to the city, and it may also potentially or inadvertently violate open meeting laws. The BRC members are fully aware of these concerns, and they have no desire to be burdensome to the staff or to violate any open meeting laws. So I wanted the council to understand that we are fully aware of these concerns, and there's no desire to do these. This section being proposed is written to allow the BRC to identify some focus areas for these deep dives for council approval. The council may want to change that to where council is identifying the focus areas for the BRC instead of the BRC identifying the focus areas. And if council would like to do that, you can make a floor amendment to change this section or keep it as is, or if you do not want them to do any deep dives, you can make a floor amendment to remove it altogether. And next slide. And the last proposed amendment just adds language to clarify that the work of the BRC, especially if the work plan is approved, is not intended to replace or conflict the city manager or city treasurer's responsibilities under the city charter. And with that, I can answer any questions, and the motion basically is to adopt the ordinance 4693 to amend the code related to the Budget Review Commission.
So I'll skip the motion to continue. I don't gauge much support for that. Would you like to restate your motion, Councilwoman Littlefield?
Speaker.
Councilwoman McCallan.
Public speaker.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't see David Smith. I think he left. Oh, there you are. You're hiding. Are you hiding from us? Oh, okay. Well, you're up.
I'm sorry, I can just hear better back there where the speaker is. So, good evening, Mayor Brodsky and members of council again. As each of you know, I served as the chairman of the 2025 Budget Review Commission earlier this year, and I chaired our joint meeting with you folks on April 22 when the commission gave you our findings. And our written report, I think, describes 75 or 80 different items for council's consideration related to the current budget as well as future budgets. And I've now handed off the baton of the chairman, but I want to talk about these proposed changes that staff is asking you to approve tonight for the next commission. They're supporting the city treasurer's report, supporting this council report, dated October 1, describes these proposed changes as, quote, several enhancements to the duties of the commission that would help make the work of the commission more efficient and effective. And I personally don't agree with that prediction. Frankly, the most substantive change that is being made in Ordinance 4660 appears in paragraph D, which is in fact limiting the scope and authority of the commission. If you read the first part of that paragraph D, the first few lines, it describes what we all understand to be the scope of the commission when it was created earlier this year. Specifically, it says, each fiscal year the commission may conduct in-depth examinations and analyses of specific budget topics or review additional matters related to the city revenues and expenditures for the purpose of making recommendations for council. And that's what your commission did earlier this year in the process of developing those 75 or 80 different items for your consideration. But now the provision will be that if staff wants to do this, they have to propose, before they do this review, they have to prepare a work plan, number one, then submit that work plan to council for your review and approval in whole or in part. Then number three, if you approve the work plan, then it comes back to the commission and then they can begin their review. And after that, perhaps they can develop recommendations to submit to council. And then finally, as the city treasurer indicated, there's an item, paragraph E, that she would propose that just states the obvious, that nothing is intended to conflict with the charter responsibilities of the city manager or the treasurer. I frankly recommend that these so-called enhancements be struck. Item D does nothing more to add to efficiency of what we did or could do in the future. And item E is redundant language. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. That's very helpful. Councilwoman McKellen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify that we have a standing audit committee for the city, and deep dives are done through the audit department and with experts. And so I just want to clarify with our city treasurer that the job of the BRC is not to audit, but to make recommendations and make sure that the city's using its money wisely.
Mayor and Council Member, Councilwoman McAllen, that is correct. That is the understanding of the staff, of City Manager and myself, that the Budget Review Commission is to review the budget, and they are asking us detailed questions with respect to the budget, but these deep dives are a little bit beyond the scope of what we believe is the Budget Review Commission task. They are looking into operational processes or trying to understand specific detail work that the staff does, and so those are the things that, or specific topics that may not. So for example, I can give you an example. There may be an interest in doing a deep dive into impact fees, and the impact fees, we do have a consultant producing the studies. We do have council thoroughly reviewing and approving impact fees. So doing a deep dive into how impact fees are developed, how impact fee laws govern our use and calculation of impact fees isn't directly necessarily related to the review of the budget, but if council would like them to do a deep dive into impact fees, then we propose that that be put in a work plan for council to provide direction and approval.
Mayor, can I comment on that? So you're suggesting that if something like that does come up, then that would be a directive to the city auditor, not to the BRC?
That's correct. So if council was concerned with whether we are applying impact fees correctly or calculating impact fees correctly, that could be directed to the city auditor to look into that and audit our, calculating, assessment, and use of impact fees.
Thank you.
Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm okay with most of these changes. I guess I kind of want to get a sense from my colleagues. I am sympathetic to former council member and former Budget Review Commission chair. Section 2-383 point D, before initiating such reviews, the commission shall prepare a work plan and submit it to the city council for approval. Upon receiving direction from the city council and approval of the work plan, I guess I kind of wanted to get a sense from my colleagues if they would be okay with changing approval to consideration. And the reason why I asked that, I don't feel that strongly about it, but I hear what he's saying, and I guess the one thought that I have is that, like David Smith told us, they go and put a work plan together, and then they draft it, and then they go and take it to their commission, and then they approve it, and then they send it to the city council, and then we look at it, and then we approve it, and then weeks later they want to look at something else, and this will prevent that. This will prohibit anything else. So if one of us up here says, well, what happened with that? Or this has come up, or there's, attention over here, or like there was a poor performance, we can't do anything with it until we approve it in a work plan. So Mr. Parliamentarian, how do I want to just, can I make a motion with my colleagues to consider that without making a motion about the overall thing? Can I parliamentarian-wise do that? I kind of want to throw that out there.
Mayor and members of the council, before I answer Councilman Graham's question, I do want to make a statement regarding that particular work plan issue. I think the intent behind it is to make sure that the Budget Commission follows your direction and doesn't exceed their authority. I think that's the idea. But in terms of your question, Councilman Graham, what you're asking is whether you could make a motion to amend that particular provision?
No, just, I just want to make, I kind of want to do I kind of want to count the votes here if anybody would be. Okay. I'm kind of getting some pushback on that, but that would be my desire when somebody finally does make a motion to consider making that consider as opposed to approve. Now, if I want to say a few more things about that, I agree with, nobody is a bigger advocate for, scope limiting than me. Rabbit holing, getting off course, and we saw it with the Budget Review Commission. Happened all the time. And then staff is being whipsawed and has whiplash from every different direction. I don't want that. I think that the Budget Review Commission will only succeed during the period of time that it's operating if it has a limited scope. So I don't want to handcuff them and put too many guardrails, because I kind of want to leave enough flexibility for our Budget Review Commissioners in their proceedings. So I'll pause my comments for now and let my other colleagues speak.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
So I think we tried, the first year it was wide open, and I'd be all for really focusing in on just the budget. So I would support this item, but with the exception of Section 2-383. So I don't agree with this year having these deep dives because of for anybody, I watched every single BRC meeting, and they were hours and hours long with all of our staff, many of our directors and charter officers in these meetings. So for the sake of efficiency, every year these things aren't etched in stone. I would like to see, as proposed, the focus just on the budget with the removal of Section 2-383. And then that's where I stand. And then I will support doing that tonight. And of course, the business with the chair.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
I didn't follow that.
Actually, I agree with Councilwoman Whitehead on that. I think that those are good ideas. Thank you.
No, I don't need a motion. City Attorney?
Mayor and members of the council, just to clarify, I think we're talking about Section 2383, subsection D, not the entire section?
Yes, correct. Sorry.
It's okay.
Councilwoman Whitehead, I didn't quite understand your point. Could you clarify?
How about if now I'm going to have to pull up the item. I would like to move to adopt. I would like to vote on tonight's item with the removal of Section 2-383D and a requirement or a change that the chair, because I don't think that's in here unless I missed it.
It is.
No.
I
didn't see that.
No, it's not in here.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so my motion would be to adopt this item with the deletion of Section 2-383D and the additional change that the BRC commissioners in their first full meeting vote and appoint a chair.
I will second that. That is exactly what my motion was. Thank you.
Okay.
City Attorney.
If we could have the councilwoman state the ordinance number.
Here we go. Sorry, I didn't have it printed in front of me. All right. I move to adopt item 12, Budget Review Commission Code Amendment, ordinance number 4693, amending Scottsdale Revised Code, Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 17, relating to the Budget Review Commission, with the deletion of Section 2-383D and the addition of a requirement that the Budget Review Commission, when in their first meeting, appoint a chair from within.
Councilwoman, would you consider adding to your motion that you authorize the city attorney and other charter officers to make conforming changes to the ordinance for that purpose?
Yes.
All right, I haven't spoke at all, so before I move on, I'm completely opposed to all of this. I mean, our first year with the Budget Review Commission was completely and artificially condensed because of the timing with which they were seated, okay? So this will be the first real opportunity for the Budget Review Commission to actually work together with the city staff throughout the entire process, and now the council's trying to tie their hands about where they can go with respect to scope without coming back, asking permission, coming back to the council, get approval, which could be a 4-week time frame. So I think this is a real setback and completely undermines the spirit and the potential benefits of the Budget Review Commission. So because it was laborious and time-consuming to staff and to participants, so we should check their reins already when they had a mere 2 months, really, to get into the meat of this and do their work. And now we are starting 8 months in advance on this process, and we're gonna check their reins and tie their hands behind their back. I don't agree with that at all. I completely oppose it. I think that just doing this year to check their reins and tying their hands behind their back and listening politely is not the way we should be going on this. I mean, a rotation of chair and depriving me as the mayor of appointing the chair is just another swipe at undermining the responsibilities and inherent direction of the mayor of Scottsdale, Arizona, and I think that's the wrong direction. This will be the first full year of having a chair, having direct appointments. Direct appointments are just that. They are a direct appointment of the mayor. As a result, the chair, that would be the chair. So I would be in favor of waiting a year, and if the process did not work, revisiting this, but I'm completely opposed to everything that's being discussed. Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to clarify the motion on the floor. Councilwoman Whitehead removed Section 2-383D. You struck that entire, okay. Maybe we can have a little bit of a dialogue. Okay, so the mayor showed some indignation about limiting the scope, but Councilwoman Whitehead's motion does the exact opposite. It keeps the scope completely wide open. Are you okay that this doesn't seem to sort of rein that in a little bit? I mean, I kind of wanted to find sort of a midpoint between letting them veer in any direction and letting them, we kind of funnel them to certain directions. So can you just explain a little bit about the deletion of that paragraph?
Yes, Mayor, may I have the floor?
Of course.
Thank you, Councilman Graham. And perhaps this is an item that needs clarification. My goal in this deletion is to limit deep dives and to have the full focus on the budget itself. Did I misunderstand Yeah, Sonia, could you?
Yeah, so just to clarify, these are some of the areas that the commission would like to deep dive into based on their prior year, current year recommendation. Considering removal of the food tax, deep dive into unfilled positions, which the city manager is already doing. So that would be duplicative. Deep dive into impact fees, which I've already explained that might not yield any benefit. Consideration of eliminations of certain programs. So these are just an example of some of the deep dives.
Thank you. So yes, first of all, I want to address the mayor's comment. This BRC is in existence because of our mayor, and I'm very pleased about that. And I, in no way, shape, or form, am trying to undermine the mayor's authority on this commission. However, I've heard, and it makes sense, people like to self-govern, that some commission members would like to choose their own chair. So, and also, I want to specify that I think the focus on the budget, by limiting the focus, we're actually helping the second year succeed better than the first year. And so that's the intent of my motion, but not in any way to limit, but we don't expect the Preserve Commission to be marching into parks and et cetera. So I want the budget review commissioners to focus strictly on the budget and not have these deep dives this year. That is my goal. But to make, and I think these other modifications, we learned a lot. I agree with the mayor. That commission worked hard, so did staff, because of the short time frame. I just want to get it right this year. And if we swing a little too far in narrowing that focus, we can always adjust it later. So I hope that helps Councilman Graham.
Councilwoman DeBasquez.
Oh, Mayor,
Councilman Graham.
do you mind if because I asked Councilwoman Whitehead a question, I kind of still had the floor, if you don't mind. Thank you, Councilwoman DeBasquez. That makes sense to me. So we're deleting paragraph D. We're also deleting a lot of this operating budget, capital budget. I am concerned that we are narrowing the scope. Some of the things City Treasurer said about duplicativeness, open meeting law violations, wrong department, not my department. If this were a movie, and we were another city, that's what the malevolent, city worker would say to cover up the tracks, their tracks. So, thankfully, we have high integrity, honest employees. But we're thinking about the system, and the incentives are in the system. So I have some reservations that we're narrowing the scope too much this year. However, as Councilwoman Whitehead said, we can always broaden it later. So I don't want to hamstring our commissioners. I want this commission to succeed. I think one of the problems was just the careening into new topics that were unrelated, and what about this and what about that, and we'd off ramp and then before we knew it, we don't know how we got back. We don't know how to get back to where we started. We don't want that. We want them to succeed, which means we want a nice, we want a backyard with a playground and the fences, so we have boundaries. I'm not trying to infantilize them or anything, but I appreciate my colleague explaining that to me, and I will be supporting the motion on the floor.
Councilwoman DeBasquez.
You, with the deletion of D, you did express some concern about unbounded. Do you feel that there has been enough discussion from council members tonight? Councilwoman McCallum saying we're not intending this to be an audit. We do have an audit committee. Councilman Graham and Councilman Whitehead's kind of comments. Do you think that's helpful so that if we have D deleted, that the commission will have enough direction from council to be able to proceed? And then also maybe this does address the issue of if a work plan were developed, but then a really good idea came along a couple months later, the lack of flexibility, maybe this would give that flexibility if necessary. So are you comfortable with D being removed and having sufficient direction for the BRC?
Yes, Mayor, council members, Councilwoman DeBasquez, absolutely. And I wanted to also, yes, that gives us clarity. And I also wanted to comment on Councilmember Graham's comments. We, as staff, do not want to hamstring the Budget Review Commission either. We don't want them to go off in totally different directions, and that was the intent of D. And honestly, the Budget Review Commission members are really wanting direction from council, because without direction from council, they really don't know what council is interested, would like them to look into. So they really would like direction from council, really. And we can, by them reviewing the proposed budget, which we intend for them to do, they are absolutely free to ask for detailed explanations, detailed analysis, and follow-up for them to understand the budget. The purpose of D was so that they don't branch into areas that the city manager is already doing, or the city auditor is already looking into, or that could be completely unrelated to the review of the budget, or maybe major policy decisions that really should be left to the council.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what's been said. I agree with Councilwoman Whitehead's motion. I just want to ensure that going forward, since we are making amendments and moving forward for this next year, that my idea of having the chair being chosen by the members of the commission would be appropriate. That's how it's done in the other boards and commission areas, and I think that that needs to be included in this one also. Thank you.
I understood that to be included in the first one, so I think we're good. So, again, this entire conversation is premature. I don't know what the goal is here other than to deprive the volunteers of the Budget Review Commission, most of which worked really hard last year. We have there's a joint meeting coming up between the Budget Review Commission and the council, which is designed to give direction and have an open dialogue between us and them. So trying to manipulate or narrow or expand or, no one understands, it doesn't sound like to me what that really is going to look like. I, again, would urge the council to push this to until after the discussion or at the point in time when we're meeting with the Budget Review Commission so that we can actually hear feedback. We heard from David Smith just serendipitously because he's here tonight for open public comment. It'd be great to hear from our Budget Review Commissioners that were in place last year and see how they feel about these changes and get direction from us based on that input. So I'm completely opposed to this. With that, I'm going to make an alternate motion to continue this until our joint meeting. We can take these issues up then. I mean, let's hear how the Budget Review Commissioners feel about appointing the chair and the vice chair. Maybe they don't want to do that. So does anyone have a second to continue this to the joint meeting? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the very detailed motion, please indicate your vote. Thank you. Moving right along, we now turn to, there are no citizens petitions. There are no additional public comments with respect to non-agendized items. Therefore, we move on to mayor and council items, which starts with item number 14, boards and commissions, task force nominations. Per the city council rules, I'm going to turn it over. I see you're here to go through the process from the lectern there, but Vice Mayor Quasman is not available for tonight's meeting, so I hear that he's appointed Councilwoman DeBasquez, asked her to fill the role. So, Councilwoman DeBasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, the City Council will be nominating Scottsdale residents interested in serving on citizen advisory boards, commissions, and committees. The Scottsdale City Council is responsible for establishing city policies and enacting laws in support of those policies. The Council relies on volunteer, citizen-based boards and commissions to research issues and make recommendations in support of the Council's mission and goals. The information and recommendations provided by Council-appointed advisory boards is a valuable tool in helping Council members in their deliberations. Appointments for these positions will be made at a special City Council meeting on October 21st. As we begin our process this evening, I'd like to note to my colleagues that an applicant only needs to receive one nomination in order to advance to interview before the Council. When I call on you, if your chosen applicant or applicants have already been nominated by a Council member, please state no additional, and we will move on in the process. Thank you, and now let's get started. The Airport Advisory Commission, there are 2 openings. The Airport Advisory Commission advises the City Council on policy matters relating to the operation of the airport, proposals for development, airport area land use, fees, and safety concerns. Michael Good is concluding his 3rd term, and he is ineligible for reappointment, as commission members can serve a maximum of 3 terms. John Spall's term is expiring. He is eligible for reappointment and has submitted an application for consideration. There are 2 vacancies and 9 applicants. The applicants are Craig Bennett, David Gans, Michael Gonzalez, Stephen Kressler, Adzam Quayam, John Sloan, John Spalls, Carl Stein, and Mark Unterbach. I will now entertain nominations for the Airport Advisory Commission. Each council member can nominate 2 applicants. Councilwoman McCallan.
Carl Stein and Mark Unterbach.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
John Spall, if I'm saying that right, and Michael Gonzalez.
John Spall and John Sloan.
No additional?
I apologize. Mayor, would you mind repeating that? Sorry, we had a little glitch. So I have Mark Unterbach, Carl Stein, and then Councilwoman Whitehead. I apologize. You had John Spalge, and who was your second?
Michael Gonzalez.
Michael Gonzalez, and then Mayor?
John Spalge and John Sloan.
Thank you.
No additional?
I'd like to add Mr. Bennett.
No additional. So Craig Bennett, Michael Gonzalez, John Sloan, John Spall, Carl Stein, and Mark Unterbach have been nominated. The Building Advisory Board of Appeals, there are 2 openings. The Building Advisory Board of Appeals has the jurisdiction to recommend that minor variances in the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical application of the building code be granted, and that alternative construction methods or materials be allowed. The board also recommends amendments to the code. Julian Anderson's 2nd term is expiring, and he is ineligible for reappointment at this time. There are 2 vacancies and 2 applicants. The applicants are David Brotman and Tim Castleberry. I will now entertain nominations for the Building Advisory Board of Appeals. Each council member can nominate 2 applicants. Councilwoman Whitehead.
David Brotman, I need to put my glasses on, and Tim Castleberry.
Wonderful. David Brotman and Tim Castleberry have been nominated. Human Relations Commission, there is 1 opening. The Human Relations Commission advocates and promotes all dimensions of diversity. The commission acts as an advisory board to the mayor, city council, and staff to make recommendations on ways to encourage mutual respect and understanding among people, to discourage prejudice and discrimination, and to work toward cultural awareness and unity. Tina Drew's 1st term is expiring, and she did not submit an application for consideration. There is 1 vacancy and 7 applicants. The applicants are Alexandra Blansky, Paul Epstein, Jacqueline Fayyad, Katie McGinty, Chas Ongst, Jill Pearlstein, Andy Rickey. I will now entertain nominations for the Human Relations Commission. Each council member can nominate 1 applicant. Mayor Borowski.
Chaz Ongst.
Paul Epstein.
None additional.
Councilwoman McCallan.
Katie McGinty.
No addition.
And I have no additional. Paul Epstein, Katie McGinty, and Chas Ongst have been nominated. The Industrial Development Authority, there is one opening. The Industrial Development Authority's main function is to issue tax-exempt bonds for certain types of private developments for the purpose of attracting new economic activity to the community. Special qualifications: there are no formal requirements, but given the nature of the work that the Industrial Development Authority conducts, it is suggested members be comfortable working with detailed financial pro forma, feasibility studies, and financial projections. Ethan Nolden has resigned. There is one vacancy and 4 applicants. The applicants are Michelle Garner, Michael Rowland, Dean Sims Elias, and Carter Stout. I will now entertain nominations for the Industrial Development Authority. Each council member can nominate 1 applicant. Councilwoman Littlefield?
Michael Rowland.
No additional.
Councilwoman McCallum?
Oh, sorry. Michelle Gardner.
Dean Sims Elias.
No additional.
And I have no additional. So we have nominated Michelle Garner, Michael Rowland, and Dean Simmons Elias. Transportation Commission, there are 2 openings. The Transportation Commission advises the City Council on matters relating to the safe and efficient movement of vehicles, transit, pedestrians, and bicycles. The Commission provides a public forum to hear citizen complaints and requests regarding the transportation matters. Mary Ann Miller's 2nd term is expiring, and she is ineligible for reappointment at this time. Emmy Cardella's term is expiring. She is eligible for reappointment and has submitted an application for consideration. There are 2 vacancies and 10 applicants. The applicants are Bob Baker, Emmy Cardella, Kelly Christensen, Gerald Conover, Carrie Cox, Zahira Dagdon, Robert Mattingly, Jeremy Schlosser, Mohammed Shabander, and Emily Westlensko. I will now entertain nominations for the Transportation Commission. Each council member can nominate 2 applicants. Councilman Graham?
Thank you. I'll do Mr. Baker and Ms. Cox.
Councilwoman McCallum?
Emmy Cardella and Kelly Christensen.
No additional.
I'll just add Gerald Conover.
Emmy Cardella, Gerald Conover.
And I have no additional. We have nominated Bob Baker, Emmy Cardella, Kelly Christensen, Gerald Conover, and Carrie Cox. Veterans Advisory Commission, there are 2 openings. The Veterans Advisory Commission consists of 7 members, at least 5 of whom shall be either military veterans or work for organizations supporting veterans. The commission advises the City Council on veteran programs, policies, and practices, and serves as a community connection point for veterans and the community where they live. Peter Palmer's 2nd term is expiring, and he is ineligible for reappointment at this time. Patrick Mazzarella's 1st term is expiring, and he did not submit an application for consideration. There are 2 vacancies and 6 applicants. The applicants are Scott Burke, Lynn Gallagher, Robert Gelb, Marcy Costiwa, Christy Slegers, Mike Smothersman. I will now entertain nominations for the Veterans Advisory Commission. Each council member can nominate 2 applicants. Councilwoman McCallum?
Lynn Gallagher and Marcy Castiwa.
I'll add Christy Slegers.
Mike Smotherman, and that's it.
Christy Seegers and Mike Smotherland.
No additional.
I have no additional. We have nominated Lynn Gallagher, Marcy Costiwa, Christy Slegers, and Mike Smotherman. This concludes our nomination process this evening. Individuals nominated will be contacted by city staff with additional information. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all who applied to serve on a citizen advisory board or commission. Even if you were not nominated, your application will remain on file for 1 year for consideration at a future date if there are additional vacancies. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes item number 14. Item 15 is to agendize a presentation at the request of Councilman Graham. Direct the city council or the city clerk to agendize a presentation for a future council meeting by Dr. Chad Wilson related to the EBIT programs in Scottsdale. The council has 3 options in terms of making a motion, which are displayed, well, they're usually displayed. Direct the city manager, there they are. So Councilman Graham, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Dr. Chad Wilson, we got to meet him. Many of us were in attendance to the Firefighters Behind the Flames event, which was a good event, record-breaking event as far as charity and attendance. I'm off topic, though. Mr. Wilson seemed to be a very astute and knowledgeable person, and I didn't know about the EVIT program at Coronado High School in our own city. And so I just wanted to kindly ask my colleagues to hear from him. He could come talk to the council and kind of share publicly the things that they do. I was thinking a 5 or 10 minute presentation, no action items. So I would humbly ask my colleagues to approve this.
I'll second. May I speak to my second? We've done a lot up here, even though we don't, education's not under our purview, but EVIT is very, very important, and indeed, he is an impressive leader of the school, so I enthusiastically support a presentation to the council.
I'll third that.
Seeing no other comments, all those in favor, please indicate your vote. Thank you. That passes unanimously. And with that, that concludes our regular meeting, tonight. I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.